These are the assembly instructions for my box within a box, and this is the 2023 version. Seems to me I redo this every single year because it's one of my favorites. So this is the base of my box, and I've cut it out of Cricut Craft board. And I've used a double scoring wheel to score my panels, and I folded down on the score lines, and I've also folded them in the opposite direction. If you notice in the center, I've scored an octagon shape. That's going to be to help me place my center box. So for my box, I need to build 8 of these small boxes. So I've already assembled 2 of them, and I'm just going to show you how to assemble one, and all 8 of them go together the exact same way. When we start with our flat piece, it's got score lines. So I'm just folding and burnishing on all those score lines. I'm using a bone folder. If you don't have a bone folder, you can use a ruler or something with a nice clean straight edge. You can also use your Cricut scraping tool. It works just fine. All right, so now I'm looking at the inside. I'm going to flip it over, and this is the outside of my box. I'm going to start by gluing down 4 squares. So not on the middle square, but on the 4 squares surrounding it. So I'm going to glue them down so it's approximately an even border all the way around. Once we've adhered all the decorative panels, we're going to work on the acetate panel that's going to be on the lid of our box. So I've cut out my piece of acetate, and I have a frame piece that's going to go on top like so. I'm using a high quality glue here. This is Art Glitter Glue. I also like Barely Art Glue. And I'm just applying it around the perimeter. I'm going to glue my little window down so there's approximately an even border all the way around between the edges and the score line. I'm going to glue this down, but I'm going to use double-sided tape. I'm using red line tape for this, but any thin double-sided tape will do. I've put my double-sided tape around the perimeter of my frame. I'm just taking the protective film off my double-sided tape, and then I'm positioning my frame so it's directly over the cut part of my piece. So it's like a little window. And then I have this little arrow piece. It's just a little piece of trim that I'm going to add on top. Now there's 2 reasons for this. First of all, it's decorative, and second of all, it adds a little bit of strength to my panel. To assemble my box, I'm going to flip my piece over so that I'm looking at the inside of my box. I'm going to bring these 2 tabs inwards, and I'm putting glue all over those tabs. Now I'm going to lift my panel up, and I'm going to bring each side up to meet the score line on the tab. So you've got the cut edge of your square is right up against the score line of that tab. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So I'm just bringing my side up, right up to the score line. Then I'm going to go in there with my bone folder and just make sure that I've spread all that glue, both sides. So now I'm going to bring in the tabs on the other end and put glue on them, and I'm going to bring up that side. I'm bringing my cut edge right up against the score line on my box. Now I'm going in again with my bone folder and just applying a little bit of pressure to spread that glue. I have my little horse image and a well-used piece of transfer tape with my closure at the front, so the closure is facing me. I'm going to apply my horse. I'm trying to center it as best I can. I have this piece of scrap cardstock, and what I've done is I've cut 4 layers approximately the same size. It doesn't really matter. This is just a piece of scrap. So that's approximately 1/2 inch in width. I didn't put it in the file because you can use your scraps for this. So I'm going to close my box and bring the tab down, and I want it to be placed exactly where, when my box is closed properly, where that tab would land. Then I'm going to take my scrap piece and I'm going to put it on top of my closure. So it's exactly on top widthwise. Then I'm going to grab this little piece that looks like a miniature popsicle stick, and I'm going to put glue just on both ends. And then I'm going to flip it over and place it so it has to be centered as much as possible. And then I'm going to lift my scrap out, lift my tab out, and then push on both sides. So my little scrap piece of paper creates a little bit of depth so that it's easier to slip my tab in when I close my box. So I have 8 boxes like that, so I have to build all 8 boxes, and then we're going to proceed. Now we're going to assemble the box that's in the center of my boxes. I'm folding on the score lines that are on the center of my shape. So I folded down on all those score lines. That's going to be the base of my box. And then I have these score lines that branch out on all 8 sides. So I'm just folding down on the score line that's on the side of each one of those rectangles. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So now I'm putting glue on any one of those tabs, it doesn't matter which one. And then I'm just bringing it up to its neighboring tab. I want the cut edge of the rectangle to be right up against the score line of my tab. And then I'm going to go on the inside and just spread that glue. So the tops should be even. And those tab pieces are on the inside of your box. So just put glue, bring it up to the neighboring rectangle. So I'm going to repeat these steps all the way around my box for all 8 of them. Okay, so now that we've assembled our little box, I'm going to assemble the lid. I'm going to put our little acetate window on the top. If you're using Cricut acetate, it has a lovely protective sheet on the top and the bottom of your acetate. So you want to remove that before you continue. So next I'm going to take my little frame piece and I'm going to put glue all around the interior part of my frame, like so. I'm just layering my acetate on top and just gluing those 2 pieces together like so. And then I have my little horse images. I'm just going to apply them to the interior of my window. So I've glued my images onto my octagon. I'm going to flip my piece so that it's upside down, and I'm going to put red line tape all around the perimeters, so just around the frame. So I'm just going to remove the backing on my double-sided tape. I'm positioning my frame so that it's exactly centered. I want the flat shape of my edge to correspond with the score line, the straight score line. And then I'm taking my second silver frame and putting glue all along the underside of it. And I'm just placing it over. So now we have that frame on both sides. So now I'm folding all the score lines on the lid. You have a score line here. So you fold down here, fold on the second score line. Then there's this little triangular score line. You fold down on that. And you want to do that on all 8 of those sides. Next I'm putting glue on those little tiny triangles. And then I am bringing the sides together so that the cut line of my rectangle is right on the score line of the little triangle, like so. It's a very small piece. That's a little finicky. I'm doing that again for the one beside it. So I'm just going around the entire perimeter repeating that same thing. So now I've glued down all those little triangles. I still have those tabs all the way around. I'm putting glue on each one of them and folding them inwards like so. And then I'm going in with my bone folder and I'm just spreading all that glue. So I'm going to do that for all 8 of those flaps. And this will give me a nice reinforced lid. So now that I've glued in my sides, I have a lid for my box. I've come up with 2 different options for the box in the center. Before I do any of them, I want to be able to tie my lid down. I've cut off 7 inches of this very, very narrow ribbon, and I'm going to thread them both through the holes on either side of my box. So then I'm going to put a very small amount of double-sided tape on the ends that I've threaded through. Just pulled it out so I can take hold of it properly. I'm just putting some double-sided tape just along the underside. I just have a small amount of double-sided tape from about there to the end of my piece. Then I'm going to pull my piece through until it reaches that double-sided tape, and then I'm just going to stick it down to the wall of my box like so. And I'm going to do that for the other side as well. My first option put inside this box would be, I've cut out these little octagons and I'm going to fold them back and forth accordion style on the score lines. I'm going to glue the bottom one down to the bottom of my box, glue the top one down to the top of my box, and then when I remove it, it would all just come cascading out. You could cut several of these and make this as long as you want it to be. So that's option 1. And this is option 2. So I've cut all these strips in very, very thick. This is, I think, 120-pound cardstock, I think. It's very, very thick, almost as thick as watercolor paper. You want to put glue from approximately the 1 1/4 mark to the end of the strip. Then you want to take a second strip and just lay them on top at a right angle, like so. And next you're just going to fold your first layer on top of your second layer. Fold your second layer on top of it so that it creates a new V. And then we're going to do that in reverse. This one, and then that one. And you're just going to keep going until you run out of cardstock. So I'm just going to snip it off at the edge. And then I'm going to grab another one of these strips, and I'm just going to put glue on the top of that one and glue this one down. Now I'm going to fold the other side over. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to snip the part that hangs over. So this is the piece that I've just snipped. I'm putting glue all over it. The part that flaps up, I'm going to fold down and just extend. And I'm just going to keep folding like I did for the first section. And again, I've run out, so I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did for last time. I'm just going to keep folding. So I folded down the last part of the one that I started with. I'm just putting glue all over that last square. I'm folding it over. So what's going to happen is when you let go, it pops up. I'm going to put a glue on the bottom of my spring, and I'm going to lower it into my box. So I've written thank you on this octagon. Just putting glue on the top square. I'm lowering it down, and I'm placing my octagon so that it fits. And then I'm putting my lid on top. If you really, really mean, you can add some confetti in there. This is my base piece of my box, and I am going to glue a matte layer on there, making sure that the hole is right over those score lines so that it's properly centered. The way I want to position my smaller box is within my large box. I want the closure of the box to be facing towards the inside, and I want the one beside it to be the same way. And then I have a third box, and again I want the closure to be towards the inside of my box. I want the closure to be like so. And make sure that you're positioning it exactly right so that all three of those boxes fit. I'm going to put glue on this flap so my box is right on that white piece of cardstock, right on the edge there, and that up against that score line like so. And then I'm going with the box right beside it, so I'm putting glue all along this white panel. I have my horse in the same direction as its neighbor, and I'm positioning it so that it fits nicely beside its neighbor. The opening of my box is facing towards the boxes that I've just glued down. And I want it to fit like so. And just like I did for the first box, I want to position it so that it's right up against the edge of my base layer, right up against the score line. So they're very, very tight together, but they certainly open nicely. So I have glued on this piece, put it up right against the neighbor, and I've got it right against that score line. So this is my right hand corner piece with my closure facing my other row of boxes. I'm going to put glue all along my flap. And then I'm putting glue on the next one. Got my closure facing the center, placing it right up on that score line. And I've got my last two pieces, and I'm basically going to put them in the same way. And now all we have left is the lid and the central box. So I'm putting glue all over the bottom of my box. And now I just have to make the lid. So my lid piece has score lines at the top. It's also a reinforced lid like I did for the center box. And I'm just folding on the score lines. Now I'm putting glue on those corner tabs and folding this panel downwards and that panel downwards to create that corner at the top. I want the cut line of my side panel to be right against the score line, like so. And I'm going to do that for all 4 corners. So with those 4 remaining flaps, I'm just going to put glue all over one of them. It doesn't matter which one. And then I'm just going to fold it inwards. And I'm going in there with my bone folder and I'm spreading all of that glue. And now I'm going to do that for all 4 sides. Top layer is 3 panels of cardstock from the largest to the smallest. And then I have some black vinyl. I put the image on metallic shimmer paper and just glued it all down on the top. Now I'm just going to glue this down to the top of my box. So I'm trying to maintain an even border all the way around. I'm going to flip my lid over and I'm just going to go in there with my bone folder and spread all that glue. So now I have my box and I've got my lid that keeps my box contained.